Good evening YouTube, welcome to my news channel. This is a small weather video which I made to show actually further developments concerning the polar vortex, but also weather in general. I will also cover the 7.3 magnitude earthquake briefly that struck Japan. But let's start with a little bit of weather. So in my previous video, if you have watched it, then you know that the polar vortex was struck over Russia. This has a profound effect because it is supposed to be hovering over the Arctic. But we have a new development. It is actually stretching, and at some point it is forecasted to split in two, and this will make things even worse. But let's take a look at the Arctic oscillation. So I have predicted that it will become negative, and briefly it became negative. But it went positive again. This in itself is a good thing, and I will show why. So if you're not familiar with Arctic oscillation, it's very simple. A positive Arctic oscillation means a strong polar vortex, and this usually keeps the cold over the Arctic. However, in our current situation, it's hard to say whether or not this polar vortex will split or not, because typically if it becomes positive, it means that it is actually a strong polar vortex, and if it splits in two, the effects of it, the negative effects, will become even more stronger. So we have to monitor whether or not the polar vortex, after splitting, if it splits, if it remains strong. So let's take a look at the 10 millibar temperature. We see that there is no new stratospheric warming. We have two small episodes, and it actually cooled off to reach mean temperature. So this in itself is also a good sign of normalization in the atmosphere. When we look at the geopotential height, we can clearly see this blue represents negative, which means that we have a positive Arctic oscillation. So negative values in the geopotential height signifies a positive Arctic oscillations. Positive values in the geopotential height means the opposite, that you're likely to have a negative phase. So we are back in this positive phase. But this worries me. And if we look at the forecast of the 10 millibars, we see that clearly it is forecasted that the polar vortex will split. It will actually already start splitting within 48 hours. So whether or not this happens remains to be seen. This is only a forecast, but I have confidence in this particular simulation, so I believe it will actually happen. Looking at the weather, how this translates into the weather, let's just take a look at my previous forecast. So I said that warm air will pour in the Arctic, cold air will be pushing from Russia because of that polar vortex, and as you can see, if I put the temperature anomaly, this is exactly what is happening. There is a massive positive anomaly, temperature anomaly, over the Arctic, plus 3.9 degrees. This is a lot. This is a lot, and it will definitely have an effect if it persists. We see in the coming days the same trend, although at the end it is less pronounced. But this is what I forecasted, and this is what is happening. But you have to take into account that the polar vortex will split in two, so we might have a new pattern in the weather. When we look at the accumulation, precipitation, the total precipitation which is forecasted, we can see that there is a trend. In the southern European countries, there will be a lot of accumulation of rain, and so the danger of flooding if this weather pattern persists. Why is this happening? Because these low pressure systems are following the jet stream. The jet stream is now split actually in two directions. If I put the 250 millibars, you can actually see it. Let's go back. So typically, now it is completely stretched over the Arctic. This is not supposed to happen. It is supposed to be a wavy pattern that crosses Europe, but now it actually joins the southern layers of the jet stream, and one part of it goes to the Arctic. And this is because the polar vortex is located over here. So that's the effect of that, basically, because the jet stream has a tendency to envelop the polar vortex, so it follows it. And we see similar trends. All these low pressure systems will be waltzing over here. If you look at the accumulation, or actually at the precipitation, you can actually clearly see it. So all these low pressure systems pushing all that rain, as you can see, towards Iceland, then it goes over the Scandinavian regions and so makes its way to the Arctic. But very little goes actually over Europe, if none at all, and it is mostly concentrated over Spain, Italy, North Africa, Algeria, at the coast of Algeria, Tunis, and a few other countries, Greece, Turkey. So these countries will have a lot of rain, a lot of low pressure systems going over there, as you can see, and they all follow each other. This is of course just a forecast, so we have to see what happens after the polar vortex splits in two. But we will definitely see, if it splits in two, we will definitely start to see blocked weather patterns, and this is very dangerous. This means in some regions it will continuously rain, in some others will have drought because there won't be any drop of rain. Other regions might have cold anomalies, persistent cold anomalies, while other places might have heat waves as we go into the summer. So we will see how this develops further. Now, before I move on, I wanted to show, let's start with this. So this year, the Arctic sea ice extent is lower than the mean and also lower than the record. And I found it interesting to show this. This basically means, this is for example Antarctica. Here, there's a whole chunk of ice missing this year. You can see it missing. But if we look at the Arctic, and this is still Antarctica. Where's the, yes, here's the Arctic. We can also see trends. Let me just put this map. Trends in which you can see that there is less ice than previous years. This is of course only the median, but if we go back at this chart, we can see that it is actually lower than most other years, than the record of 2012, but also all the other means. So this will be interesting in the coming months, summer, and at the end of the summer season, to see if that actually, if this trend continues, or if the ice will regain more mass over the Arctic. So, oh yes. So this, for example, is the sea surface temperature. These are all maps that you can see at your leisure. I'm not going to cover this completely, except maybe this one. This is the sea ice thickness. There is again less thickness than usual, than previous years. I have actually compared it to previous years, but I don't want to make this video too lengthy. And this will also have an effect on the melting season. Especially here, for example, there is very little thickness in ice, over the Great Lakes also. And there is actually movement in the ice, but not the usual movement. So because of this influx of hot air towards the Arctic, there is a change in direction. Typically the trend is that ice moves from the Fram Strait and goes away from the Arctic. This time it is pushed, so there will be ice compression. Whether or not this will add ice to the Arctic, increase the concentration and such, I don't know. But if this trend continues like this, this could have an impact on the melting season. Okay, so if you haven't done it by now, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notifications. A bell will appear when you subscribe actually, otherwise you will miss any future content that I make, and this would make me sad. So let's jump into the earthquake, because I feel this is a major event. There is a 7.3 earthquake near the region where there was the Fukushima plant. Luckily for Japan, this seems to be the highest magnitude, because we can see a 6.4 of the coast of Japan, and then right after that 7.3, and then a 5.5, which suggests that this is actually the aftershock. So I honestly hope for them that this is the end of this big earthquake, because that's not a good thing in this region. So let's take a look at tsunami alerts. They issued actually, briefly, tsunamis alert, and I will post. You can actually find, so if you're interested in viewing those, you can always check, let me see, my web links, and you will find them in this section. So I do have a seismic monitoring section. You have many links to view the earthquakes, but you can also view the tsunami alert over here. So tsunami alerts and wave height. This tsunami alerts is the link that you need, and these are the buoys. So I have them next to each other. You have the tsunami warning. So the tsunami warning says there is no danger for a major tsunami. I think there has already been a tiny increase in wave height of 20 centimeters, but that's it. And if you click, actually, let me just click on the description. So they said potential impacts. Minor sea level fluctuations may occur in some coastal areas near the earthquake over the next few hours. There is no longer a tsunami threat for this earthquake. So you see, there is no tsunami danger, but I've included these links. Well, actually, I showed this anyway, so people interested in viewing this data can actually do this. And I will put a link in the description box to these specific links, these two specific pages. So there you have it, earthquake in Japan. Let me just also read a quick note about it. So Tokyo, a powerful 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Fukushima in North Japan on Wednesday evening. So this happens moments ago, triggering a tsunami advisory and plunging more than 2 million homes in the Tokyo area into darkness. This region is part of northern Japan that was devastated by the deadly 9.0. So this is the reason why I included in the video. Not to create any panic or so, but it is interesting noting that it was near the region where the deadly 9-pointer happened 11 years ago. The current earthquake activity is entirely attributed to the increased solar activity. So of lately the sun is more active. There have been a few M flares, as I saw, a few CMEs, so this explains why. And remember when the KP indexed rose in previous days, so I have checked that out. So I'm definitely sure that this is actually the effect of a CME hitting our planet when it triggers that. I believe it was a geomagnetic storm level 1 or 2, and this is actually the effect of that. So the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said there was no longer a tsunami threat, though Japan Meteorological Agency kept its low-risk advisory in place. NHK National Television said tsunami waves of 20 centimeters, 8 inches already reached shore in one area. So there you have it. No danger for tsunami, but there might be damage that has been done to buildings and such. Perhaps rocks falling off mountains also posing danger. So if you are Japanese, you have family living near that coastal area, it might be the time to contact them to see if they are okay or to assist them. And I hope everything will be alright for the Japanese people. Okay, this is almost the end of the video. If you haven't done it already, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you don't miss any of my future content. And let's jump into the quote of today's philosophical quote, because with each video I always cite one. So number 65 this time. A swan is out of place among crows, a lion among bulls, a horse among asses. And this is actually funny. And a wise man among fools. So if you are a wise man or a wise lady, don't stay too much in the vicinity of fools, because according to this quote, this is a bad thing. Okay, this is it, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I guess we see each other next time. Bye bye.